G'day viewers, I'm about to show you my method of breeding small egg scattering species like tetras and barbs and things like that without having to collect the eggs or even feeding those tiny little hatchlings. So this video isn't about triggering spawning, it's about what happens after a horizontal tango. So stay tuned.
Now this video is inspired by a breeding project by Mal from Aquarium Delirium, who's going to breed these rare fire ant tetras. And I'm really keen to see how he gets on, so I think you should follow along as well. I'll put a link for his first video down in the description. But today the fish that'll be testing the old mattress are these beautiful albino cherry barbs. Now Australia's favourite Canadian and barb aficionado Chris from Stubbs Aquatics doesn't really like the albino version of this fish, so just for you Chris, you can pretend it's the regular variety. But for everyone else, have a look at the beautiful colour on these males. Absolutely gorgeous. Now before the barbs can have any special mummy and daddy cuddles, we need to get a tank ready, and I'll do this well ahead of time. There's nothing in here besides some dead and dying plants and a few plants that are actually growing, a couple of catfish, some sponge filters and a heater. And with all that dead and decaying matter in there which never gets cleaned out, it means this tank is full of microorganisms and infusoria and stuff like that, which will feed the fry, which means we don't have to. Now the place that the gland to gland combat will take place is just this planter basket that I picked up from a hardware store for about $7. The mesh is fine enough that the adult fish can't get through, but coarse enough that any eggs can fall through. And I've just zip tied a few corks around it to make sure it floats. So we just float the basket, and I'll put in a bit of Java fern or Java moss or just something in there for a bit of cover, just to encourage the fish to play doctors and nurses. This is the tank that I keep my females in, and you know when they're ready for some preying with the knees facing upwards, when their bellies are nice and full, means they're full of eggs, ready for action. Now the most difficult part of the entire operation is catching the females out of this planted tank, ready to move them over into the love nest. Now to try and catch out a male, which was probably even harder than catching the females, if he only knew where he was going and what he was going to do, they'd be jumping into the net. Now any kids watching this, best leave the room now because this part is for adults only. Now I'll slow this bit down so we can actually see what's happening, and you'll see the male come up over the top there, he's the red one, up beside the female, and if she releases the eggs he'll fertilise them. So this can happen straight away, or if not, leave them in overnight. And then when the female's got all skinny again, means she's empty and she's ready to be put back home. So after 1 or 2 nights, hopefully the females are all slim again. They don't look like they're blown up like beach balls. And so we can return the fish back to their original tanks. First off, we'll drop the male back in, all worn out after committing assault with a friendly weapon. And he's eager to get back in there so he can go down to the pub and brag to his mates about what he's been up to. And then we release the ladies back to their tank, all happy to have their pre-baby body back. So we just leave the tank, we don't do anything else for a few days, and then you'll notice some tiny little fry in there. Now we don't have to feed them anything because we've built up all that microorganisms and infusoria by keeping all that dead plant matter in the tank. So that'll keep them going for the first few days. And then after that, we all know baby brine shrimp is the best, but to keep it all simple, I just feed Hikari first bites while they're very little, and then once they get a bit bigger, I just grind up some flakes very, very fine into a powder and feed that. Very simple. And you might notice in these pictures there's some bigger fry as well as smaller ones. That's because there's 3 spawns in the same tank. And that's the way I do it. So hopefully you found this interesting. And if you like leaving likes, leave a like. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
What happens after the bow chicka wow wow? What happens after the matrimonial poker? What happens after the bedroom rodeo? What happens after fishy fornication takes place? What happens after they finish the no pants dance? After a bit of the old slap and tickle? What happens after the wham bam thank you ma'am? Once they finish dancing in the sheets? Once the fish have finished their belly bumping? Down to some hanky panky? After jumping each other's bones? Once they have completed their amorous congress? After they take a roll in the hay? Once they finish knocking boots? After a little bit of how's your father? What happens after nap time for grown-ups? So stay tuned.